In my practice, my body is ever present. I'm always thinking about my body, the context that my body is in, often in relation to the landscape. Landscapes that I'm physically in, but also, memory of landscapes that I visited or where I've done residencies. The newer work, and in particular the three larger works in this exhibition, don't try to sort of mask that in terms of the composition. The works are a lot more abstracted. If you look at the individual flowers, some of them are cut, some of them are uprooted, but they're all out of a sort of, I guess in a way, a naturalized context. They've been sort of examined and placed, and in a way almost like it's a sentence or it's a word or a phrase. Well, the one new thing about this ceramic work is the addition of the hair. And the hair, again, the addition of hair to the ceramics relates to several things. One of those, again, being my own body, obviously, and just that connection to the material and to the body, and the genesis of that coming together, and the beauty and the sadness and that all really appealed to me. So in working with this new ceramic work, I wanted to somehow integrate the hair into either the blooming or the root system of the flowers, to reference that history and that aesthetic and that idea, but also to reference my own body in the flowers. So the ceramic work on this table, all of this work was developed on site at Medalta, or it was sculpted, made, fired at Medalta, and some of it was painted there. And I didn't have time to finish it, unfortunately, by the end of the 6-week residency. So I brought them home to my Regina studio, finished them there, brought them back. But again, this is another, what I was saying, idea of layering images with reference to the body. So that idea of the interconnectedness of things, of the human body to the rest of the world, that idea of the human being just being one element of the landscape. Another art historical reference that I should talk a little bit about is an individual. Her name was Mary Delaney. She was a 17th century artist who worked, she was a paper artist, so she made paper mosaics that were botanical in nature. And she started doing them at the age of 72, and by the time she died at the age of 88, she had made over 1,000 of them. So they're really incredible, very small, very delicate works on paper that are made up of hundreds, if not thousands, of tiny little pieces of paper. And they look like they are alive. They're remarkable works of art, and they've stood the test of time. So I was fortunate enough to study them in person at the British Museum where they are in their collection. So that's another reference point for these works, because the petals, if they're not my hair or a mixture of my hair and paper, that the reference to the material, the paper, is a nod to her work and her influence on my practice. The very largest work in the exhibition, which is at this point still the largest drawing that I've made to date, which is 33 feet. It was made originally as a site-specific piece for a museum in Milan, which was formerly a cathedral. And then after the Second World War, an artist took it over and it became his foundry. And he was a very well-known sculptor during his lifetime. When he died, he gifted his home, which was the cathedral, to the city of Milan and the whole collection. So when I did this work, I was invited to respond to the space and also to the collection. So some of the decision-making in terms of the scale, and the palette and some of the imagery was related to that collection. But it really it fit the theme and the ideas in this show very well, so I wanted to show these works together. The imagery in this work and the idea that began this series is really about Venice, the Venice canals, and the plant life that exists in the water. So that was sort of part of the genesis of this work, and then the visual disruption with the reds and the purples and the deep oranges actually relate to the visual phenomenon of migraines that I sometimes get, which create an aura or a visual disruption in my vision. And so the red flora that's floating over top of the sort of deep dark greens and blacks is sort of a representation of that ocular disruption. I'm always sort of conflicted, obviously, about my migraines because the visual disruption is really quite beautiful and interesting and strange, but the pain that follows is always tied to it. So I'm conflicted about it, but I'm also very interested in it. So that's another way that the body is always present in the work, even if it's through a total abstraction of the experience that I'm having.